out a victory. Harris wins decisively. Trump ekes out a victory. Trump wins decisively. Race too close to call. Joining me now, three men who know what it takes to make or break a campaign. Democratic strategist, the Ragin' Cajun James Carville, the man behind Bill Clinton's 1992 campaign victory, the focus of a new CNN film, Carville. Winning is Everything, Stupid. In theaters now, will be released on Max on November 14. CNN senior political commentator and former senior advisor to President Obama, David Axelrod, is here. His podcast, The Axe Files, just hit its 600th episode. By the way, I'm a guest in one of those. Republican Congressman and Trump campaign surrogate Byron Donalds back with us as well. David, I want to begin with you. What a crazy final week. The comedian at Madison Square Garden, the Biden garbage comment, the Biden White House adding an apostrophe to change the intent on that comment. You had Mark Cuban on women around Trump. You had Trump saying guns are trained on the face of Liz Cheney. What would happen? And so many more that I'm forgetting. Did any of it make a difference?
Yeah, I kind of think it does, because there are a lot of people out here who are living their lives and are now just focusing on the race. And the question is, how do you close the race? And in the main, I think that Harris has been more disciplined in her closing. I've said many times, Michael, that the Trump campaign itself, its advertising and general blocking and tackling has been very professional and very well conceived. Their problem is their candidate, who takes them off message in his 2-hour stand-ups, and so they never can punch through with the message they have. We're with Byron Donalds. He's a talking point machine. You can't blast him off his talking points with a bulldozer. The candidate needed a little more of that this week, because I think between the rally on Sunday and some of his other comments, certainly the Liz Cheney comment, he is taking the campaign off of the message they want to deliver.
Byron Donalds, respond to that.
I mean, first, I don't know to be happy or upset by what David said. Try to stay away from talking points. I just speak the facts as I see them. Look, I think at the end of this race, all of the stuff that's been dusted up over the last week is really not going to matter much. I think the core issues in the country remain the same. This has been an economy where working families have struggled because of high inflation. The year-over-year number might be down, but the cumulative effect over the last 4 years has been disastrous for them. Immigration, still a real issue all throughout the United States, and voters in mass do want the borders secured, and they want some level of deportations to occur. But if you talk about the last week in terms of the comments that have been made, I think what people are also starting to see is some of the gross mischaracterizations and, in some respects, the equivalency, depending if you're talking about President Trump versus President Biden, or a comic versus Mark Cuban. There's this relativism in terms of how to equate those comments. To me, just doesn't really measure up. You can't compare
my hunch is
at a rally to President Biden. You simply cannot.
James, my hunch is that it's all noise and that it all cancels each other out. This is what I most want to ask the Ragin' Cajun. What happened to persuasion? Like, when and how did we become all about motivation and nobody's trying to convince anybody to switch sides or win them over?
Well, on one hand, we have an apostrophe. We don't know if it was there or it's not there. On the other hand, someone wants to use the military to arrest their political opponents. Let's mull on one. Why don't somebody cut the other hand off and do themselves a favor? And we're going to post here. And I don't see, and the Constitution is on the ballot. Somebody needs to tell the public that, okay? It would be nice, but we got to talk about the apostrophe, and then we got to talk about jailing opponents, because really those are two equal things in modern American society.
Hey, Byron Donalds, that's for you. Michael, that's for you, and then I'm going to ask David Axelrod a question. Go ahead, Byron.
My simple response would be, if you're going to talk about jailing opponents, that's something that's come out of the Harris-Biden administration, because last time I checked, it was the Department of Justice by their special counsels that have been trying to jail Donald Trump on a myriad of issues. When Donald Trump was president, he didn't turn the Department of Justice on his political rivals. He did not do that. And if you're going to talk about the comment about whether the National Guard is deployed, remember the question and the context. It was if there is unrest in the country, post-election and post-inauguration, if Donald Trump is to be victorious, would he use the National Guard to protect citizens? His answer was yes, he would. So I think that this is where the narrative building has been grossly mistaken and misleading to the American public to bring emotions into our elections where the emotions simply don't need to exist.
David Axelrod, get in on this.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's if Trump as president didn't use the Justice Department to go after his opponents, it wasn't for lack of trying. It was because there were people in the Justice Department and in his own counsel's office who intervened and prevented that. But it certainly was his impulse to do that. And he said throughout this campaign that he wants to do that. But just getting back to the campaign itself, I said that Harris has been disciplined. Trump has not been disciplined. The Harris message really is, I am focused on the problems of people. Here are my ideas to help people, who are looking for affordable housing, who want to start a small business, who are worried about caring for an elderly parent. There are things we can do to help. And he's so busy with his enemies list and his vengeance that he'll never get around to the problems of people, because at the end of the day, Donald Trump is about Donald Trump. And the way he's behaving this week reinforces her message, which is why I think it's more than noise, Michael. I think it actually has strengthened her closing argument.
James Carville, who's hiding? Are there hidden Trump voters? You look at all the data. Are they underestimating Harris's poll? How do you read the data?
Well, I can't let something go unsaid, the good congressman. Maybe I dreamed this. I'm getting old, so my memory is not good. But I do think I remember Trump saying he would jail his political opponents. And then his flunkies went out and said, no, that's not really what he meant. And then he came back and said, yes, that's what I really mean. So why his own director of national intelligence thinks that he's compromised, that the Kremlin has blackmail on him. But for God's sakes, let's talk about the apostrophe, because that is what's coming down the thing. I don't know if they're hidden Trump voters or not. I do know that the Constitution of the United States of America is on the ballot this coming Tuesday, and I think it's time for people to start acting like it. That's my personal view.
I'm trying to keep it fair. My questions today are apparently meaningless. Byron Donalds, back to you. You've got the opportunity now to respond to James. Quickly, though.
Quick response is that, like I said before, Donald Trump was president. He didn't do any of these things. His administration did not do them. And if you look at the Harris campaign, you can make the argument, yes, she's disciplined, but it's also overly scripted, because she's trying to distract from her agenda and from her record as vice president serving with Joe Biden. And that's what voters are concerned about more than anything else. They are comparing the last two presidential administrations, and it's without a doubt Donald Trump had the more successful presidency for the American people. And if you're going to talk about the Constitution, it was the Biden-Harris administration that spied on the American people during COVID-19 and suppressed the free speech of the American people, using the weight of the White House to do so. That has been documented by House investigations. So if we're going to talk about the Constitution, let's really talk about it, because it's also the Biden-Harris administration that has ignored the Supreme Court when it comes to student loan bailouts.
We're going to take a time out, come back with my three special guests, talk about campaign strategy and potential paths to get to 270 electoral college votes. I want to know what you think.